World leaders pose for a group portrait to launch the United Nations 50th anniversary celebration. President Clinton challenges the UN to rein in its finances and fight harder against drug trafficking and terrorism. And Fidel Castro takes center stage to denounce the U.S. embargo against Cuba. This is the CBS Evening News. And this is John Roberts reporting. Good evening. It is the largest assemblage of world leaders in history. More than 200 presidents, monarchs, and prime ministers gathered in New York City to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the United Nations. President Clinton was first on the podium and used the occasion to issue a challenge on crime, drugs, and terrorism. White House correspondent Rita Braver is at the United Nations.
There you go. We got to move the whole road down.
The class photo was a metaphor for the whole UN 50th anniversary. Scores of world leaders with nation-sized egos. Just setting up the picture was a struggle. But many of those posing have made their marks in history by waiting out adversity. Front and center, of course, the President of the United States, who arrived here with other nations slightly miffed at him because the U.S. is more than $1 billion behind in its UN payments. In his formal General Assembly speech, Mr. Clinton promised he'll get Congress to pay up, but warned that the UN must rein in its bloated bureaucracy.
The UN must be able to show that the money it receives supports saving and enriching people's lives, not unneeded overhead.
President Clinton also urged that the next UN frontier be law enforcement. He announced a new freeze on drug dealers' U.S. assets and called for new international crime-busting efforts.
So that we could say together to organized criminals, terrorists, drug traffickers, and smugglers, you have nowhere to run and nowhere to hide.
The president barely mentioned a central issue preoccupying the UN session, Bosnia.
If they achieve peace, the United States will be there with our friends and allies to help secure it.
But Mr. Clinton's friend and sometimes adversary Boris Yeltsin was much more blunt. Russia has been demanding a role in any peacekeeping force in Bosnia, but wants the military command controlled by the UN Security Council rather than the U.S.-led NATO military alliance.
It is inadmissible for a regional organization to take decisions on the mass use of force bypassing the Security Council.
And Yeltsin went even further, warning that U.S. plans to admit former Soviet bloc nations to NATO threatens European security.
The strengthening of one bloc today means new confrontation beginning tomorrow. This is not the way to build a just world order.
Now, U.S. officials insist that a lot of that was just Yeltsin posturing for the Russian home audience. And they are predicting that when the two leaders actually sit down tomorrow for their meeting at the Roosevelt family home in Hyde Park, New York, that they will, in fact, make significant progress on some of these tricky issues that are facing them, John. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Rita, what about the president's other mini-summit coming up on Tuesday with Chinese President Jiang Zemin?
Well, that is another tricky one. As you know, the Chinese wanted a full state visit with all the bells and whistles. The U.S. said that there was too much strain in the relationship right now. The Chinese are still angry because the U.S. allowed the president of Taiwan to speak here. The U.S. is still upset about continuing human rights violations in China. So that could be another frosty session, John.
Rita Braver at the United Nations. Thanks. President Clinton has been giving the pointed cold shoulder to Cuba's Fidel Castro, but Castro is still the center of attention wherever he goes, from friend and foe alike. And as Randall Pinkston reports, this latest visit to New York City is no exception.
President of the Republic of Cuba.
Showing world leaders at the United Nations a new image, Fidel Castro dropped his trademark military fatigues for a business suit. And instead of the 4-hour stem winder he gave on his last visit here, today's speech was breathtakingly brief, just 6 minutes, appealing for the world's wealthy nations to share with the poor.
Breakthroughs in science and technology are increasing daily by the numbers, but their benefits do